Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick. This is MSFS Flight Plans and that is the Lancaster, the old Avro Lancaster. I've had it for a couple of months now, just looking for an excuse to fly it. I think I've finally found it for us. We're going to take a little break in the Route 66 tour, which is always kind of going to be in the background for those of you that are anticipating those flights. I just can't fly 100 flights strung together for Route 66. Very interesting, but there's all kinds of other things that I want to play around with, and this is one of them. We're going to fly from Portland up to Seattle, flying over Mount St. Helens, flying next to Mount Rainier, flying over some nice dams. Just about the perfect length flight for this. We're going to fly it with pilot edge, so we will have live ATC, which is really cool, but the most fun and most challenging thing about this is just how realistically finicky this plane is. So we're going to have to do a couple of workarounds, one of which you can see in the lower right corner of the screen there. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But before we even get to that, I think there are 6 add-ons that I'm going to link in the video description, all of them free. One of them, as you can see, there is no pushback cart or ground cruise of any kind out here. It turns out the modder, I was talking about that on our last flight because I knew there was something that would get rid of those because I always seem to be running into them. I knew there was a mod out there that would remove those. I just could not find it, and the guy who designs those is one of our channel members, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I just updated that for 2024, and here's the link for it. So I found it, loaded it, and as you can see, it works great. I'll put that in the video description. And there's 2 different files, just as a heads up, in case you miss it as you're looking through the page on flightsim.to. One of them will remove it for just general aviation airports. One of them will remove them for all airports. And since I'm usually not parked at gates or anything, and I don't care about ground crew all over the place, I just threw in the one that removes them for all airports. So just a heads up with that. If you ever get one of those flights where you just don't want to be banging into things, like most flights on this channel, put the big one in there. It'll take care of you. Secondly, check this out. I was also complaining about this on our last flight. Look what is not popping up at the top of our screen as I move the mouse around. No toolbar, handlebar up there, but it still shows up if we hover over it. So that was great too, because I could not figure out exactly what the name of that one was. I couldn't remember. The one I had from 2020 wasn't working. I couldn't even get it to pop up. So that will be included in the video description as well. Everything is coming together nicely. So let's go ahead and hop in the plane real quick. And let me tell you about some other things we got going on. This will do the full startup procedure. Everything seems to be working fine, even though this is badged for 2020 at this point. So I think that everything is good to go with that. The autopilot is the vintage style that has got a heading hold, altitude hold. You can do VOR navigation in it, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to tell you what we're going to have to do to work around. But check out this camera I've got up here. Got a spot in the bombardier seat, so we'll be able to fly right over stuff, look right down into it, which is pretty cool. And the problem for this one that we have the workaround with that radio down there is this. Here's where the radio is. It's back behind the pilot. It has a nav 1 and standby, a com 1 and standby, but no com 2. And as far as I can tell, I looked all over this plane, looked through the manual. I don't think it has a transponder, which is a real serious issue if you're using air traffic control and flying into Bravo or Charlie airspace. So that's why we have this little guy right down here. And let me blow it up a little bit so you can see it better. I knew there had to be some kind of app that I could put on my iPad that would let me control the radios remotely. I do have the little Logitech radio stack external hardware, but that doesn't have a transponder either, and we needed a transponder. So I picked this thing up, which also makes it a heck of a lot easier just to change all of our radio frequencies. You can see we have a COM 1, COM 2, NAV 1, NAV 2, and an autopilot, so I don't have to... With this plane, you have to look. Let me just show you. Oh, got to click back over here. The autopilot controls are down there to the left, next to the yoke on the left. I'd have to put another camera in there, and you couldn't see out the window while you're looking at it, so that was just problematic. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to just do an autopilot activation and then altitude hold. I was flying okay with heading holds, but it takes huge sweeping turns, which was making it difficult to actually get lined up. But what's cool about this plane, and there's a couple other vintage planes in the sim that I've flown, I can't recall off the top of my head which ones they were, but if you do an altitude hold, you can still steer the plane, for lack of a better term. So you can turn right and left, and it won't try to bring you back over there to your original heading when you turn the autopilot on, which is great. So it'll hold our altitude while we're maneuvering, and then if we just get the yoke back to center, it'll keep us on our heading, which is great. And we got the transponder. Awesome. So I'm going to keep this right down here. You'll see everything else I'm looking at on my iPad as we go along. Our scratch pad, the frequencies as we're looking those up, we'll just put that down here, and it kind of looks like that's where that would go in a cockpit anyway, so that'll be perfectly cool. Okay, I'm going to connect to Pilot Edge right now, so you'll hear them start chattering as soon as we get on there, and then we'll go ahead and get our clearance over there for... We're going to get flight following too, so let's look at the map real quick. If you're not familiar with the Northwest United States, here's Canada up here, there's California, so we're leaving from Portland, which is at the very northern fringe of... It's right on the border, really, of Oregon, and then flying up here to Seattle. This whole flight is... I don't have a... I think it's about 165 nautical miles. A straight shot would probably be maybe 140. But I already checked the ATIS, and they're going to have us come off of one of the 10s. I'm guessing because of our location, it'll probably be 10 right, so we've got to come out here a little bit till we get out of the Class C airspace, which will end at 4,000 feet. Then we can take that turn towards the north. And as you're coming out here, our flight altitude for cruising will be 11,500 because we've got to get over these mountains, but we're going to come right across these reservoirs here, check those dams out. And here's Mount St. Helens. One of the add-ons I have installed, all again, are freeware, is a 7.5 gigabyte file that makes this look, it already looks really, really good just by default, but this takes it to a whole another level. So if you have the space for it on your computer and don't mind waiting a few minutes for it to download, it looks really great. If you wanted to fly right over the top of it, and I'm kind of wondering, this is about 9,000 feet. Let's just see where we cross. So yeah, that's about 9,000 feet right there, even though we're not going right over the top of it. I came over it at 11,500 last time, and I still felt like we were just barely getting over the lip of it. The views were amazing. If you had a helicopter and installed that add-on pack and flew down there, it'd probably be amazing. But we're going to fly next to it just so we can actually get a decent look at the whole thing, because right over the top of it, I mean, you feel like you're about to just land in it, which is neat. But we want to get over here to see Mount Rainier next, and this one is around 14,000 feet high. If you haven't tried flying over the top of it, we could definitely clear it in this thing. We'd probably do it around 16,000 feet. But the problem with that is we have to get back down here real quick, and I don't want to have to do a nosedive to do that. So right now, they have got the 16s are the inbound active runways. And what I'm going to do when we get up here is ask if it's okay, because what he's going to do is probably when he sees us approaching from this direction, tell us to enter a left downwind, maybe. I'm hoping he will allow us to make a left base, because this thing is so massive and lumbering and slow that it would be very hard to make this turn from downwind to base to final in this thing. So we'll just see how that goes. If not, we'll try to do it and see how it looks. Maybe we'll just ask if we can extend our downwind so we can do a little light bulb to get back around here. But that's the plan of attack, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of things to talk about, so let's just park that back over here and get the notes over here. I also have this pulled up, of course, as always, our Navigraph chart, so we can see where we are. So we're probably going to get, for our taxi instructions, Charlie, Foxtrot Charlie, over to runway 10 right, I'm guessing. That's what we'll anticipate. So bring that back over here. Let me just, man, I've got so many screens opened up over here. Okay, so that one we can reduce for now. We still got little nav map up over there. Okay, I think we're ready. So let's go ahead and make our call over to Portland Clearance Delivery and get our notepad ready for taking those instructions once we get them. Let's see, back to ForeFlight. You can see right down there on the right what I'm looking at. Okay, so let me just think about this. Let's go ahead and get the plane started up while we're doing it. And this window, which I did leave open, will change the sound when you shut it, which is a good thing because this is an awfully loud plane, but loud is awesome. So we're going to Control E it because it takes a little while to get it started up, so that's what I'm doing right now. Oh, I think we killed the battery. Well, good thing I put all these extra cameras in here. Let's get the ground power back on. Very good. And get back up in the cockpit. Yep. Come on, shake, baby, shake. Yes. Yep, that's V12 power for you right there. All right, so let's go back down here and shut this back off. And I was really wishing we could get a camera back in the tail gunner section, but there's like a firewall or something. There's a bulkhead that you can't get through, so I couldn't put a camera back there, which was kind of a bummer. Okay, so now let's get our clearance. Let me pull Navigraph back up so I can tell them exactly where we are. And we have Sierra. Portland Clearance Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot at the central ramp with Sierra. Would like to request flight following up to Seattle Tacoma, 11,500, 11,500.
November 200 Pop Foxtrot Portland Clearance. I missed the aircraft type. Second the aircraft type.
Avro Lancaster, vintage warbird. Like what? Who's flying one of those things around?
November 200 Papa Foxtrot. Maintain VFR at or below 3,500. Departure frequency 124.35, squawk 4770.
VFR at or below 3,500, departure frequency 124.35, squawk 4770 for Lancaster 0 Papa Foxtrot.
November 0 Papa Foxtrot, read back correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll switch that frequency in a minute. So we need to remember 3,500. Okay, I'm going to have to, we'll do a quick altitude hold in for that. We'll just keep an eye on that. Let's check our bearer to make sure that's good. Yes, it is. All right, so first things first, 4770 for that transponder. 4770. Whoop. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, we got that in. So we've already got our ground frequency programmed in. Go ahead and switch over to that, and we'll tell them that we are ready for taxi. Get back over to this so we can write down our taxi instructions. Portland Ground Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot is ready to taxi.
However, 200 Papa Foxtrot, Portland Ground, where are you parked at?
The central ramp right between runway 3 and 10 right.
November 200 Papa Foxtrot, runway 10 right, taxi via Foxtrot, Echo, Charlie, cross runway 3 at Echo. I'm sorry, cross runway 3 at Charlie.
Taxi via Foxtrot, Echo, Charlie, cross runway 3 at Charlie for 0 Papa Foxtrot. Okay, very good. We are ready to go. So let's go ahead and shut our window before I forget about that. See you later, awesome noise. Thanks for entertaining us for a little while. All right, here we go. So that's good. Let me go ahead and put the tower frequency on here while I'm thinking about it. So we're at 10 right. They've got multiple tower frequencies here, so let's go ahead and take a peek at that. 10 right is 123.775, which, because we don't have that third decimal place, will be 123.77. All right. Point. Okay, and then we just need to remember to switch over to that departure frequency right before we roll out. All right, Foxtrot, Echo, Charlie.
November 419 uniform mass spin clearance, clear to San Diego Airport, lens 1 departure, lens, then asphalt.
Okay.
Maintain 16,000, expect flight level
400,
10, that's after departure. Departure frequency 123.8, squawk 2050.
We're rolling, barely. This thing handles pretty well.
San Diego by lens 1
on takeoff. You just have to make micro movements with those pedals.
Level 16,000, expected for level 40010 means south departure.
So we're going to come right up on, this is Foxtrot right here to our right, and that's going to be Echo crossing over directly in front of us there.
123.8, I heard
now we'll have Charlie peeling off to the left.
123.8 for the frequency.
Yes, it's 123.8.
Airport 190 uniform, read back correct. Walker 390, taxi to parking via Foxtrot, remain this frequency, let's hit.
Parking via Foxtrot, remain this frequency, 390.
Alright, and there's runway 3 right there. Very good, everything's shaping up really well. So while I'm thinking about it, I took a flight 2 nights ago with one of our channel members who has also subscribed to Pilot Edge. He's getting ready to start his flight training, restart his flight training. And we were flying around some non-towered airports in Montana, which were just beautiful. I found 6 of them, each of them 10 to 15 miles apart. And we were working on our non-towered radio calls, which was really, really cool. And I thought, we need to get some other people involved in this, because it was just the 2 of us flying around. So if you are on Pilot Edge, thinking about getting Pilot Edge, let me know, and I will let you know when we're going to do that. I put a little post on the Discord page for Pilot Edge to let them know we're going to do that, see if we can round up some other guys. Not only was it just a beautiful flight, but being able to have the airways more crowded would be really, really fun. Some tricky landings involved. It was super cool. If we don't have enough people to do it, we could also do it on VATSIM. If a lot of you guys are on VATSIM, the problem with that is if you're not on VATSIM, as I've mentioned many times, there's a little bit of a barrier to entry with that, in that you have to go through their coursework and take their tests and all that, so it's not like you can just sign up and hop on. But you can do the same thing on VATSIM if we wanted to do it. But even if nobody else does it, I will still post the flight plan for that, maybe in our community section, because I don't think I can make a video of it. There's nothing to talk about, but lots of amazing natural landscape to see up there. It's really, really cool up in the mountains. And again, some of those landings were kind of tricky, which is fun. Okay, let's check that barrel one more time. A little bit of a twisty runway here. Taxiway. This is not the live weather. I had to adjust it a little bit because I didn't want to have to deal with any surprise wind issues or cloud cover around this part of the world. All of a sudden the weather can move in pretty quick. So I put it on the, I don't think this is the bright and sunny day setting, but it's one of them. I think this is a freeware add-on that I got. It included like 30 or 40 weather presets, which are nice so you don't have to fiddle around with anything. Okay, we got this run-up area over here to the right, and then after that we'll be turning off. Everything's looking good. So far, so good. And I think we already have one notch of flaps. Here's our flap indicator right over here. It's kind of behind the yoke, so a little bit difficult to see. But for some reason, this plane starts up cold and dark with one notch of flaps in.
Our 462 your Papa, Denver Center, Connect Springs, approach 124.0.
All right, almost there. Next right-hand turn. And this takes big turns in the air and on the ground. Ooh, this one's a tight one too. We're going to cut the angle on that corner there just so we can make it around. Okay, that would be an approach hold short there, not the main hold short for the runway. Or maybe an ILS hold, which we were not instructed to stop at. Alright, we made the turn.
Springs approach, stationary 4620 Papa, holding 8 miles west of Pueblo, looking to activate IFR to Centennial.
Our 4620 Papa, Springs approach clock 6755. I know you usually hang out in the Black Forest area. If you're within a 30-mile radius of the Black Forest,
let me go ahead and program in. I'm going to switch to tower and then program in 124.35 on the second.
The approach position works that area.
Okay, so within 30 miles of Black Forest.
24.35.
Good set, thanks.
Okay, we're ready. Portland Tower, Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot, holding short runway 10 right, ready for departure to the northwest VFR.
November 200 Papa Foxtrot, Portland Tower, runway 10 right, cleared for takeoff on the variable at 4.
Clear for takeoff 10 right, Lancaster 0 Papa Foxtrot. Okay. Alright, I think we got everything squared away. Let's do this. I don't have Will with us, that's too bad. He loves warbirds. Listen to the sound of that thing. I wish there was a way that I could adjust like an EQ in the sim for the sound. I probably could in post-production just to make it roar just a little bit more.
Air 4620 Papa, radar contact 37 miles south of Black Forest VOR.
When I was flying last night, there was another plane that had almost an identical call sign to mine, which was very confusing. That's Mount Hood, I'm pretty sure, over there in the distance. That's not one of the ones we're going to be flying past or over.
Colorado Springs, altimeter 3010.
All right, here we are, lined up. Let's see if we can keep her on the center line as we launch this sucker. Nose up, nose down, I guess.
Continue via a Dane.
Barely moving those pedals, just barely moving them. Airspeed's alive.
Lusty, Union Direct Airport, 9,000 feet, 4620 Papa.
And 20 Papa, 10,000, 10,
even that call sign's pretty close, 20 Papa.
10,000.
Gears up.
4620 Papa.
Watching that altimeter, 3,500 is our limit until he tells us we're good. And we're just going to keep flying a runway heading until we're either out of the airspace, which we won't be until we get pretty far away because the airspace ends at 4,000 and flaps up. And we'll trim that nose up a little bit. So there's the Columbia River right over there to our left. I'll tell you a little bit about that, assuming we have time with everything else going on.
To downwind with information uniform.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one to translate. Area just looks fantastic. Really good. This is photogrammetry out here, too.
November 0 Papa Foxtrot, radar contact, Portland departure.
Over to departure, 0 Papa Foxtrot. Portland departure, Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot at 2,500, climbing 3,500.
November 200 Papa Foxtrot, Portland departure, verify your altitude.
Thank you for that. We're approaching 2,000 right now. Sorry about that.
200 Papa Foxtrot, Roger, cancel altitude restriction.
Altitude restriction canceled, 0 Papa Foxtrot. All right, cool. So we're just going to keep climbing right to 11,500 and then hold it, which will get us out of their airspace. And then we get that autopilot on, and we'll be in good shape. So there's 2,500. Here's our altimeter right down here in case you're wondering what I'm looking at. So airspeed, vertical speed indicator, And our direction indicator if we're manipulating that, which we won't be for this flight, and then our altimeter right down here. Alright, heading's looking pretty good. We'll just keep on coming on out this way. So another 500 feet, 600 feet, we'll be out of their airspace. I don't know if he's going to say anything about that or not, but once we are clear of the airspace, we can usually resume our own navigation. I want to come out a little bit further this way anyway. One of the add-ons that Freaky did for this area was a bridge pack, which I didn't think we'd see any bridges, but we did. So dang it, I'm wishing I would have put that in there, but if you want to look for that, just type Portland into flightsim.to, and you'll see it in there. We'll put that back in if we come to a slower, closer tour of this area. Alright, we're going to have to make a pretty sharp turn up here, which I won't make excessively sharp. Look how gorgeous that looks down there. Alright, so now we're officially out of the Class C airspace. I'm just going to get out of their inner core entirely, which is probably another 5 miles or so before we make that turn to the north. This is the default map too, by the way. I do not have anything turned on for map enhancement. Man, after flying all those super light little GA planes, it's kind of fun to fly something that has a little bit slower response to it. So the next call I'm going to be listening to is, if they even switch us over, we'll probably get into Seattle approach at some point. There's another little airport right down there. See that? So it might be a while before we hear from them again, which is perfectly fine because we got lots of things to talk about. And we're going to start with a little aviation history about Portland. The first municipal airport out here was Swan Island, which opened in 1927 and very appropriately timed based on our last flight. On opening day, Charles Lindbergh landed there in his Spirit of St. Louis. And Swan Island is now actually a peninsula about 5 miles southwest of Portland International, where we just left from. But they made it a peninsula during World War II and converted it into a massive shipyard. And if you feel like flying down there to check it out in the sim, you're going to find the University of Portland campus directly north of it across the Wilmette River. Crossing through 7,000 feet. And there's the Columbia again right below us. And Portland International, if you're not from the area, sits right on the south bank of that. So we're leaving Oregon right now and heading into Washington State once we get across the Columbia. Okay, so what I'll do is once we get on our heading here, which we're pretty close, I'm just going to turn the autopilot on, leave the altitude hold off, and just control that manually until we get there, and then we'll put the altitude hold in. And I'm glad we didn't get another radio call before I got to execute this. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there. Autopilot on. And we'll just control our ascent with the trim. Which kind of has a hair trigger. I'm using my trim wheel to do it. Alright, so I just need to keep an eye on our altitude down there. Stop at 2,000, please. Yes, nailed it. Okay, that's good. So as far as the Columbia River itself, at roughly 1,200 miles, it is the longest in the Pacific Northwest. And Lewis and Clark, who we also mentioned again on our last flight, because they started over there in St. Louis, got to know the river pretty well on their journeys. They hooked up with it at the confluence with the Snake River near the present-day town of Pasco, Washington, which is about 100 miles east of here. We'll probably oscillate a little bit with that vertical speed, so I'll trim it up a little bit because it seems to be kind of holding right there, just to see if we can keep this climb going. We got another 2,500 feet to go. And then once on the Columbia River, old L&C followed it all the way to the Pacific, arriving at Cape Disappointment in Washington in November of 1805. See, look at that. I mean, I just barely touched that trim wheel, and now we're at 2,500, which is fine. It'll probably settle itself back down. Okay, coming up on 10,000 feet, check our barrel one more time. Everything's looking good. And even though we can't see our flap indicator at all, let me just jiggle that one more time, make sure flaps are all the way up. They appear to be. Very good. Cape Disappointment, by the way, was not named by Lewis and Clark. I have to imagine they were beside themselves when they saw it. Not the least bit disappointed. It was named by...
Pop, I just want to make sure that I actually did say it, because I might have said clear to Denver Airport.
Okay, that's not me. It was named by a guy named John Mears in 1788, so about 20 years prior to Lewis and Clark.
Yes, sir, I got cleared to Centennial.
Let me just keep an eye on that altitude because we're about to hit it. I'm going to hit the altitude hold. We got 500 feet to go.
Copy.
And then we'll be locked in. I need to adjust our heading just a little bit here. Get us over these dams. That'll probably do it just fine. And altitude hold. Locked on. Great. But John Mears was a British fur trader sailing up the coast looking for a big river that he'd heard about that would give him access to the interior. And he thought he'd followed his collection of Spanish maps pretty well, but when he sailed into the bay where it was supposed to be, where the river would dump into, he couldn't find the river due to some shoals that had appeared, and he couldn't get across them, and the bay was far enough back inland that he couldn't see the river. So in frustration that he totally missed the mark, someone sold him some sham maps. He named it Cape Disappointment. And I just love stories like that. But getting back to the river, the Columbia has been referred to as the workhorse of the West because it produces a ton of hydroelectric power out here. With more than 60 dams along its path, it generates around 1/3 of all the hydropower in the entire country. And we won't see any dams on the Columbia because it's back behind us now, but we are going to see a couple of them up here. The one over to the left, which is going to be actually dead ahead of us, we're going to turn before we get there. We will not fly over because it didn't look all that great in the sim, but it looks awesome in real life. I'll show it to you on the satellite map when we're done. They do have some dams up in the Columbia River Gorge, though, which is only about 50 miles east of Portland. And I bet that whole area looks pretty cool in the sim, so we may have to do a dedicated flight up there. That might be a cool glider trip, actually, now that they have a powered glider that you can get up there with and then shut the engine off. I have, believe it or not, despite thousands of hours of simming, never towed myself up in a glider and flown around. I'm looking for Lewis Lake, which is going to be, should be directly ahead of us. I'm sure we'll see it once we come up here a little bit further and take this turn. So let me see here. I'm looking at a little nav map over here on my left. So Lewis Dam, is that called Lake Lewis? Or something else? Let's put that on... Okay, it's Lake Merwin. So maybe it's the Merwin Dam, not the Lewis Dam. Yeah, it is. I just called it the Lewis Dam on a little nav map. I'll correct that for the bookmarks before we attach them to the video description. So Merwin is going to be the first one, which is right in front of us, and the Merwin Dam is all the way on the western side of it, so it would probably be behind our little window pillar over there. But we're going to take this turn in just a minute and see if we can line ourselves up right over the Yale Dam, which is on Yale Lake. We're getting pretty close. So there's Rainier over there, and you can see Mount St. Helens right over the top of our compass right there. That's the direction we're going to be heading. And so that is Merwin right here, right in front of us. And then we're going to come over this one this way over here. So let's go ahead and make our turn, see if we can get lined up. There's the dam right there, and then we'll climb down the bombardier seat and take a look at it. Let's pull our power back just a little bit. This is actually a pretty great way to fly. I love these handful of planes that will do an altitude hold and not just lock you onto your heading as soon as the autopilot's activated. Because all you have to do is point and shoot, and then just let her go back to neutral, and you're good. The dam on Lake Merwin, let's see if we can see. It's going to be right behind that. We're not going to be able to see it. It's a big concrete dam. It's the only one of these that's a concrete dam. About 313 feet high, and it looks really cool. The rest of these are going to be earthen dams. This one's just a little bit taller, the one for Yale Lake, or Lake Yale, whatever it is. And they've got a little side dam on it too that's called a saddle dam. Let's see if we can see it from up front now. I can actually steer from here too, so we can aim it right up. Man, actually the Bombardier could steer. None of these controls are manipulatable up here, if that's a word. I just made it one if it's not. But I think you can do bombing missions in this thing, so there must be some way to control all that. So right here is the dam itself, again about 320 feet high, and then this is what's called a saddle dam over here, and they just built that up so that once this one was done, the water wouldn't just rush through this area and fill it up and run over the edge here. And I think they built a big recreation area right down here on this side of this one, but here's the main dam up here. And they got a little spillway. I wonder if we'll be able to see that from this high. We're going to find out. I think you can even do a dam busting mission in one of these, which is what the Lancasters were famous for.
T00 Pop Foxtrot, contact Seattle Center 126.6.
126.6, 0 Papa Foxtrot. Let's get back up there. 126.6. All right. 126. Make it the active. Seattle Center, Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot at 11,500.
November 200 Papa Foxtrot, Seattle Center, roger. Seattle altimeter 29991.
29991, Lancaster 0 Papa Foxtrot. So here's the other dam right up here. And this one's even bigger. I think this one's around 600 feet high. It's big, real big, compared to that last one. All right, we don't want to get too far off because we got to come back over there to old Mount St. Helens. And they did a really good job of blending this add-on into the rest of the scenery. I couldn't really tell. I mean, it kind of looks like there's a seam here, but once you're over it, you really can't tell. Okay, so let's get back up in the nose, and then I'm going to try to steer back a little bit closer so we can try to see what kind of look we can get down inside it.
Uniform Aspen ground, runway 33, taxi Alpha.
Look how gorgeous this area looks. They say in the wintertime it almost gets kind of an alpine feel once there's a dusting of snow on everything because of all these mountains and these big lakes down here. We've flown over some parts of the Alps that do look like this. And real close to civilization over here. Ooh, we're going to get a little bit of a shadow there coming in from the right side of it. That's all right. Look at Mount St. Helens over there. Incredible. So I'll start telling you a little bit about Mount St. Helens once we get a little bit closer. I just want to look at this dam. Nope, looks like an earthen dam. I bet that one probably looks... Earthen dams seem to always look pretty good because they don't get the stretch effect that ruins a lot of the concrete ones. Neat. Okay, back to the pilot seat. So old Mount St. Helens here was single-handedly responsible for igniting my fascination with the subject of volcanoes, as all the news surrounding its eruption in May of 1980 is one of my first memories in life. I was just 4 years old at that time, but my grandmother got me all kinds of pictures from magazines like National Geographic, which I just couldn't get enough of. And the only thing that really overshadowed that kind of enthusiasm was that space shuttle launch, the first one, the Columbia, which was just a year later. She got me a bunch of pictures of that too. I think I still have them in a box somewhere. And I don't remember much else, honestly, about those early years of my life, but I can recall those two events extremely well, at least as far as my 4-year-old brain could understand what was going on. So you'll see this one does have a bit of a lava dome that is reformed down in it if we can see over that lip. And that's a big if. I just don't want to fly right over it because it's going to seem like we're going to hit that edge of it. Oh, this looks so good. I can't remember what they said the resolution level was on this with the add-on, but it was small, very, very high resolution. And this one is a stratovolcano, which are the coolest type in my opinion because they're almost always the most impressive to look at. Really tall with big slope sides. And as far as volcanoes go, she is extremely young, likely erupting for the first time around 40,000 years ago. Which means there's at least a possibility that humans were around to see it, depending on which migration timeline you follow. And volcanologists believe it has had around 40 significant eruptions over that span, with at least 4 very large ones in the last 2,500 years. Most notably the one in 1980. I'm just kind of banking over a little bit to see how close we can get without getting ridiculous about it. Okay, you can kind of see down on, I mean, if we're being nitpicky, on the sides here, a little bit of rough texturing, but I'll take that for how detailed this looks now. I'm really hoping we can just see over the edge. I might kind of circle around a little bit so we can see the mud flow on the other side. But in the months leading up to the May 18th blast, scientists had a sense that something big was coming as they observed a huge bulge forming on the northern flank of it, expanding by roughly 5 feet per day. And once she let loose, the largest landslide in recorded history ensued, displacing 2.5 cubic kilometers of material from this northern face. You'll see where it used to be here in just a second. And since it was not straight up, the blast wasn't, but a lateral eruption off to the side, the ejection of material across the surface triggered a debris flow that reached speeds of up to 300 miles an hour, clearing out 230 square miles of forest to the north and killing 57 people. Look at this thing. Look how detailed this is. All right, let's dip the wing this way. See if we can just get a little peek down in there. I want to see if we can see the lava dome. Yep, there it is right there. See that? And man, it doesn't matter how close you get. It just looks better and better the closer you get. So I would, again, put that add-on in there. It's free if you have the space for it. And fly a helicopter down in that thing. That's what I would do. The ash plume from this reached roughly 15 miles into the atmosphere, spreading all kinds of soot across 11 states, collapsing roofs, and screwing up air traffic for weeks. They said around here it really only completely shut things down for a couple days. But what was left is that impressive sight that we just enjoyed, a mile-wide crater that's around 1,300 feet deep. And a massive scar from that landslide flowing down into Spirit Lake, which is right underneath us right now. Let's see if we can see it at all. I gotta keep clicking on this screen. There it is. Killed everything in that lake. They expected it would take around 20 years for life to return to that, but things started showing up again about 5 years later. Much to the delight of all the ecologists. Boy, I bet that's beautiful too. Imagine standing down on the shore of that lake. Okay, I might have to take a helicopter flight, start down there on the shore of that, just looking up at the volcano, and then fly up there and land in that thing. That would be cool. And let's see, this lake up here, which is called, I think it's Riff Lake is how you say it, but it's spelled R-I-F-F-E. That's also a hydroelectric reservoir with a dam on the other end of it. And that dam is called Mossy Rock. It's all the way down on this other side over here. And I did not fly down there to see it. We'll take a look at the end if I remember. But it's definitely a big one. Actually, the tallest in the state at over 600 feet.
Massive tower, runway 33, clear for takeoff in 16017.
And that lake is fed by the Cowlitz River, which will be flying over here in a few minutes. And I read that it was so thoroughly blanketed by debris during that eruption that its current course is significantly different than it was before the blast. But I also read that it didn't mess up with the dam. The dam's pretty old. It was there for the eruption. I think it's from the 1960s. But they said that that lake right there acted kind of as a catch basin. And if you guys remember seeing some of the pictures from that, it was just like chock full of logs that got blown down into that. Pretty wild. Wonder what they ever did with all that. Just let it sink? Turn it into lumber maybe? And here comes the extremely impressive Mount Rainier, which looks amazing here in the sim. Okay, one more wish list request for all of our modders. I don't like how the sim, depending on which month you select, always puts snow on these mountains. Like, there would be snow on it, and it would look natural without that, but if I went, like, later in the year, like to October, November, December, you'd see this line right here start to creep down the mountain. And even if I went to July, the highest it would get is just a little bit higher than that, and it just looks very unnatural. The sim already takes care of the snow that's actually on there if you're using a decent satellite map, so I just think it's superfluous and obviously looks very unnatural. It's covering up what would otherwise be really, really cool looking. And that one's also an active volcano and potentially one of the most dangerous in the country. The biggest threat with that one is the amount of water trapped in its 25 glaciers, which contain 5 times as much ice as in all the other volcanic glaciers in the Cascade Range combined. Pretty wet. And that one's also a lot older than Mount St. Helens, with its current form taking shape around 500,000 years ago. But what we see today is heaped on top of an even older, smaller volcano that started percolating around 2 million years ago. And since it's a volcano on top of a volcano on top of a volcano, this one is classified as the composite variety. Though it looks like a gigantic stratovolcano, and I think technically those are the same things. Alright, we do have this one map seam right in front of us here, and we're not going to get in the nose to check it out, but there is a little bit of a satellite map overlap there. Looks like they had some different seasons or something, because you can see right across the top of the mountains there, it's more brown to the right and more green to the left. The last significant eruption of Rainier here is believed to have been about 600 years ago. And though it's still active, geologists don't think anyone has to be concerned for the next 1,000 years or so. So come check it out. And as you can see, it's huge. The top of it is just over 14,400 feet, which means you cannot fly your 172 over it. Though I did try. That's the first time I experienced what the maximum altitude for that thing was. It just would not climb any further. I got to around 12,500, I think. And that was all she'd do. I had to fly around the other side of it.
419 uniform mass and departure radar contact club and maintain.
This thing is so tall that on exceptionally clear days, it's reportedly visible from all the way up in Vancouver, Canada, which is over 150 miles away. But I think that exceptionally clear days are exceptionally rare in this part of the world. Mount Rainier National Park was established in 1899, making it the 4th in the U.S.
460 is your pop if it's an approach class
after Yellowstone, Sequoia, and Yosemite. And it looks like everyone in Washington was particularly fond, Washington, D.C. that is, was fond of the West in the early days when they were designating all the parks. It would take another 20 years for one to be selected east of the Mississippi, when Acadia was claimed in Maine in 1919. Even Hawaii got one in 1916. Wasn't even a state yet. So of course I got a little sidetracked with the parks once I started down that rabbit hole, so I'll share a few interesting facts about that while we're on the subject and heading over to Rainier here.
Your Papa Conic Denver approach 120.35.
Only one of those is not a natural feature, and that is the St. Louis Arch, also appropriately timed since we just saw it. And I was a bit surprised to discover there's only 63 national parks in all, and 3 of them are not even in U.S. states. We got 1 in American Samoa and 2 in the Virgin Islands. And the state with the most parks is California with 9, followed closely by Alaska with 8. Now that'd be kind of cool to tour all the national parks here in the sim. That'd give us some more backup material for the slow weeks. Oh, look at this. It's kind of almost a little too brown on this side of that seam, but it looks like it's going to clear up again up here. If you couldn't see the green, it wouldn't be so noticeable if it was all just darker.
Approach Denver, altimeter 3003, information Papa current and Centennial. Advise your request.
So let me just check the ATIS real quick over here on my other screen for Portland or Seattle. I'm just going to pull it up online because I don't want to have to mess around with the radios. So that's KSEA. Make sure we've got the most recent.
Your Papa Quebec XB, expect RNAV runway 35 right approach.
It's probably going to switch. It's Lima right now. We'll check it again one more time before we come in. And let me get our
Volcanic Denver Center, watch
nav set up. So we can see our runways. Okay, everything's looking good. So far, so good. So just to show you how we're kind of tracking over here real quick, we're going to cruise right by the side of this. And by the way, I put these bookmarks here because there was an add-on pack with a bunch of fire lookouts out here. One of them actually has a fire blazing from it. All of them have helicopter pads at it. It's pretty cool, and I think it was freeware, although I don't recall exactly what it was called at this point.
Flight of Indian Flight Level 400, Challenger 1984.
Alright, the ATIS usually flips over right at the top of the hour, which, according to my clock, is 3 minutes from now, which should time perfectly for us. See, look at that line there on the top of the mountain with that snow. Just a total bummer. Didn't need to be there, because it would just look incredible without it. Look at it, they've already got snow all over the thing.
Air 4620 Papa across XB at 90,000 at XB, cleared RNAV runway 35 right approach.
I'm really debating whether or not I'm going to proceed with the instrument ratings on Pilot Edge. I just don't fly anything that would require it, other than the challenge, which thrills me. It's quite a bit more complicated than the VFR stuff, and we just really wouldn't be using that much on the channel. It's one of those things I would just do, and then do it, and then probably never do it again. Like, oh, look at that! The snow's disappearing. Awesome. You can still see kind of the line there, but at least it's bringing in the texture of the mountain. Let's see if it totally disappears as we come around. That would be great. You can see how much extra snow it's heaped on top of it, because you can see the top of the mountain there. And for some reason, let me know if it's doing the same thing for you. Yeah, it's all going to clear off. Look at that. My rolling cache keeps resetting to 16 gigabytes. I usually keep it at 100, but it keeps resetting on me. There seems to be no reason why, because it'll go for a couple weeks without resetting, and then day to day it'll reset sometimes. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's a bit frustrating. I purposely keep that really big so that we don't have pop-in happening like this. But that's okay. Sim life. Boy, it looks like that might be the actual snow line for this time of year, because it's just removing all the snow, so it looked like it was about at the right spot where it would be. Interesting. And this thing just looks amazing too. This is default. There's no add-on for this at all. We'll come over here to our flight engineer's post and look out the window at it as we come by. Heck, let's get in the bombardier seat for just a second while we're here. And then I'll tell you about the Lancaster. Look at that. There's something kind of funny going on over on the eastern side, which would be over there. There's something that looks like the Towers National Monument Park with a bunch of weird formations sticking up, and I thought, wow, I didn't know they had those out here. And when I looked closer on the satellite map, they don't. So I don't know what's going on with the terrain on that side, but I'm not seeing any of it over here. It looks cool, but it's not true to life, whatever's going on with that in the sim. Look how incredible this looks. Wow. This little runoff channel here, look at that. That's what happens when a glacier melts, and that's just regular melting pace. I wonder how many tons of water are actually sealed up in that thing. Also, a little interesting story about Mount Rainier. I've been out to Seattle one time. I got flown out here on a business trip early in my career, and as we were cruising out here, it was totally clouded over like usual out here, but the pilot said, if you look out the left side of the plane, you'll see Mount Rainier. I was like, well, that'll be interesting. And I looked out there, and this thing was sticking up like 5,000 feet over the top of the clouds. It was incredible. It was so cool to see that. And then the next morning when I woke up out of my hotel room, when I slid open the curtains, it was a clear day, and I could see Mount Rainier perfectly out my window. It was so awesome. And it just so happens that while I was out there, Hurricane Katrina was happening, so that kind of marred my journey because I was tracking that on the news the entire time. Look how great that looks. Man, that looks good. There's still a little bit of snow, it looks like, heaped up by the sim on the other side there. Just gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to cautiously tell you about the Lancaster here, because it's got an interesting history as well. I'm sure many of you aviation enthusiasts probably know all this stuff, and I might have gotten some of it wrong, along with many other things on this flight, so feel free to correct me if I need it. And let's go ahead and start coming down. We'll take the altitude hold off. We'll come down to like 4,000 feet. Alright, altitude hold off. Turn off altitude hold. Come on. Okay, I'm just going to turn the autopilot off entirely. There we go. And then we'll just hand flyer in. So I'll just cut the throttles back a little bit. That should get us nose down a bit. Come on down. Oh, it turned the altitude hold back on. Okay, well, let's turn that off again. There we go. Now she's sinking. And we're probably going to have to come down at a pretty brisk pace here to make sure we get down in time. And we'll listen for that call for Seattle approach. Oh, I need to make sure that we got the most recent ATIS. So that was Lima. Now we're going to have Mike. Got it. And we're still on the 16s for the runways. Good. As most of you probably know, that these aircraft were built by the Avro Corporation. But what you might not know is that Avro is an initialism, which I'd never heard of before. That's a new word for me. Of the founder's name, which was Aliat with an A. Verdun Rowe. Avro. Let me just get this thing trimmed. It's tough to look at the notes and trim it at the same time. Okay, we're getting out over the brown area now and coming back into the warmer month scenery, it looks like. Or at least clearer day scenery. They started banging planes out in 1909, the Avro company did, making them one of the first aircraft builders in the world when they launched their Row 1 triplane in 1909. Mass production started in 1912 with their Avro 500, which was a biplane with a blistering cruise speed of around 60 miles per hour. And it was adopted as a training plane by the military, which stretched its production out over 20 years and over 8,000 planes, which is pretty dang impressive for back then. Very impressive. But World War II caused the shift from trainers to combat aircraft, eventually leading to the production of more than 7,000 of the Lancasters that we're flying right now. They were powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Merlin V12s, which at the start of the war could produce 1,000 horsepower each. But by the end of the war, they made some improvements with the superchargers, and they could get up to almost 2,000 horsepower each. They flew a crew of 7 and could haul a bomb load of 14,000 pounds, which could be increased for special missions like carrying the Grand Slam up to 22,000 pounds. That was a single bomb that weighed 22,000 pounds, known as an earthquake bomb, which was an early iteration of what we call bunker busters today. A total of 41 Grand Slams were deployed during the war, with the largest of them affectionately known as 10-ton TESS, TESS, being the most powerful non-atomic bomb of all of World War II. And I didn't look to see where they dropped that. Probably on like a submarine pin or something. Or the Wolf's Lair. But she had a range of around 2,500 miles, which meant it could get to any target in Germany with ease. I think the farthest distance from the coast of England was around 600 miles.
0 Papa Foxtrot, contact Seattle approach 120.4.
120.4, 0 Papa Foxtrot. Okay, I gotta use 2 hands here. 120.4. That's pretty close on our standby. And what did we have for that ATIS? Mike. Seattle approach, Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot with Mike on board. Altitude 8,500, descending 4,500.
200 Papa Foxtrot, Seattle approach, Seattle Altimeter 2989, your present altitude got cut out. Second, your present altitude.
Descending through 8,000, heading to 4,500 for 0 Papa Foxtrot.
Copy.
Alright. Okay, I'm going to probably need to pay quite a bit of attention here, so let me just focus on flying this thing in. Believe it or not, and I remember this just from memory because I found it astounding, even though 7,000 were, let's do a little quick math here, they made 7,000 of them, 3,000 of them were destroyed in the war, the Lancasters. So you would think they'd have lots of relics sitting around in museums and things like that. But that's not the case. Only 17 of them are left in the world. in the state that you could view anything. There might be some in scrapyards or something, and only 2 of them are airworthy, which is pretty wild. They got one over in the UK and then one in Canada. They got a few more B-17s, but those are fading pretty quick too. I think I mentioned it on one of our previous flights. There's a place somewhere in the US where you can pay them to take you up in the B-17, and based on what you want to pay them, they'll either let you sit in the cockpit or the bombardier seat, and I'm not sure any price would be too high for me to pay to sit down in the belly turret. That would be really cool. Fly around in that thing, especially if it worked. The ball turret down there. Okay, let's see how he's going to get us in here. I'm looking over here on Little Work. We're approaching the eastern side of that Class Bravo. See what they're going to do with us, and see if we have to get another approach request so we don't have to do a downwind entry. Trying to maintain our descent at 500 feet per minute. There's some interesting patterns cut into the trees. As you can imagine, they do a lot of logging out here. And out there, I guess it would be northeast, I think, of Mount St. Helens, there's something that looks like a domino shape cut into the trees, where one's like, you know, a relief of the other. It was pretty wild looking. I don't know what the story is behind that, and there was nothing on any of the Google Maps indicating what it was, unless someone was just having a little fun for all the pilots flying around here. But that was pretty cool. So we'll get one more frequency change, which will be for the tower, and we'll get that plugged in once we get up there a little bit closer. So Boeing Field is just to the north of this field here, if you haven't taken off from that. And on my first flight, the guy from Pilot Edge is like, "What are you doing flying that plane around? Are you taking it to the Boeing Museum?" And I said, "Ha ha." And then I had to abort my flight because I was having problems with it, which he just thought was hilarious. But man, guys, again, I'm not shilling for Pilot Edge. They've paid me nothing. They've asked me to say nothing. I cannot stress enough how incredible. Even if you're not planning on becoming a real pilot, it's the greatest thing I've ever done in the sim. It's added so much to the experience. It's more stressful for sure, but I love it. I just love it. I know some people are just into kind of chilling out in the sim, which is totally cool, but if you really want to amp up the immersion, there is no better way to learn the ropes really quick. In 2 months, I went from, I mean, just go back and watch our videos. In 2 months, I went from knowing nothing, being horrified to ever pushing that push to talk button.
4620 Papa, contact
feeling pretty comfortable. VFR flying pretty much anywhere at this point.
4620 Papa.
Bravos to Bravos, anywhere, non-towered, feel comfortable about that. And if I can get some of you guys on board for that, that's a very low-stress deal because there's no live ATC. We can just have other pilots talking on there. But it's fun. I really can't encourage it enough. I think it's around $130 for a full year if you want to do either of the 2 zones. And if you're thinking about getting your ratings, get the LA zone. It's much smaller. There might be just as many airports in there, but you'll have to get the LA zone to be able to do all the CAT ratings and IFR ratings.
Papa, Centennial Tower, runway 35 right, clear to land, with 120 at Netter.
Okay, I'm going to have to swing out to make sure I got clearance into the Bravo. So I'm going to pull out right so we don't pierce it.
Papa Foxtrot, verify your landing Tacoma Narrows Airport.
Seattle Tacoma International is our destination for 0 Papa Foxtrot.
Okay, 0 Papa Foxtrot, understood. I guess the previous controller got confused because they thought you were going to Tacoma Narrows when you indicated you were going to Tacoma Airport.
Copy that. I talk a bit fast. I said Seattle Tacoma, so he might have heard Tacoma Narrows. All right, we're going to stay out of the Bravo for a minute. And we're going to have to make sure we do not get into that. So I'm going to give it a little bit of power. And get back up to 4,500 since we're still over the mountains now.
Air 419 to uniform, contact Denver Center 127.02.
Seattle approach Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot. Just want to confirm clearance into the Bravo for Seattle Tacoma before we pierce that.
Air 419 to uniform, Denver Center, roger. 0 Papa Foxtrot is clear to enter Seattle Bravo airspace.
Confirm enter Bravo for 0 Papa Foxtrot. Okay. All right, this is good. So we're really coming in almost directly from the east now, which is great because I don't think he's going to have us go downwind now, but we'll see about that. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the autopilot back on, do another altitude hold, and that should keep us here without me having to fiddle with that.
And let's go. Tower wind check.
jump over and see. I don't know what runway we're going to get, so we're going to have to wait to hear the tower frequency because they got different tower frequencies for the runways. No problem. And let me check that ATIS again that we had since he's off base with us. So that's going to be Mike. All right, we're going to have a little bit of a depression here, which depending on, I think we're going to clear that next range of mountains and then we'll come down some. It's hard to tell what the relief is here looking at the satellite map on little nav map. If I put my VFR chart on there, we would know for sure. And if you're curious about how to read VFR charts, I recently posted a video about that too. If you want to really nerd out on VFR sectionals, that would help us out in this case, but I'm not going to switch over now because there's a little confusion with ATC and I don't want to get ahead of that. So the next flight, I think for the Route 66, before we do that, we may wind up checking out that Jurassic Park pack. My flight instructor Brian said he checked it out and it's awesome, and I love dinosaurs and rugged terrain, so we might have to see what that looks like first. But it will be down to Springfield, which is a pretty good way. Springfield, Missouri. We left from Springfield, Illinois and went down to St. Louis. Now we're going to go from St. Louis to Springfield, Missouri. But there is a lot of farmland in between that, so we'll probably skip all that again, maybe do a helicopter flight over Springfield, Missouri. There are a couple of interesting landmarks. I was looking along our route down there, so I don't know. I mean, it would be a long flight unless we took something real fast, but then we'd miss all the stuff on the ground in Springfield, Missouri, so I'll have to make an executive decision about that. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking. I think we're going to clear these mountains here. Because if I take too narrow of an approach, it's going to get wacky. Let's just see what it looks like. This is what I'm looking at on a little nav map when I pulled over. So here's where you have to make that left turn, and I'm just kind of trying to base. You can't really tell where those mountains are there. So I'm thinking we could probably come around the side of these like that, and then get over here. We'll see what it looks like. So huge prop to all you modders, as usual, Freaky D. I think it's ACN70 is the one who made that delete for the ground equipment. You guys are awesome, my heroes, and the guys at Pilot Edge. Thank you to controllers, if any of you guys are watching this. And I've been flying so much lately, I feel like I'm kind of getting to know the personalities of these guys. You know, I haven't heard, when we took that first Las Vegas flight, there was a female that was doing it. I haven't heard her in weeks. She was such a sweetheart, I'm kind of missing her. She always made me feel less stressed out. Okay, I think we're going to be able to get right over the top of that mountain and then just come on over for that approach there. Mike. I need to remember ATIS Mike. And we're going to have to start descending pretty quick once we get over that. We can handle it. We can handle it. The approach speed for this, at least according to the internet, is 120 miles per hour. 100 to 120, which is pretty brisk, but this is a heavy plane. But I don't think we have a bomb load in here. I forgot to look. If Will was here, we could send him back there to check it out. Let's pop that seat down, just in case anyone wants to join us in here. Look at that. Wonderful. Alright, airport is not in sight, and I'm a little bit concerned about switching frequencies with two hands while we're going to be trying to hand fly this thing in. Come on, give me the call. Give me the call. If we could get a straight-in approach, that'd be even better, but we'd be flying right over the Boeing airport to do that, which we're still kind of going to be doing. We'll fly over the southern end of their runway. Okay, autopilot off. Let's see how we do here. It looks like there's something on top of that mountain there. Let's check that out, see what it is. One more item for my wish list, which I've said many, many times. Oh, look at that. There's a bunch of radio masts on top of it. I would love a proper B-17 here in the sim. Maybe something like that will arrive in time for Christmas. It'd be great. That looks cool. I just love seeing just stuff sticking up in the air. Oh, and by the way, if you guys have any of Mamu's packs, you guys know I love him. He's got the Marinas pack. What is this other one? He's got the chairlifts. And what's the other one? Well, anyway, the chairlift and gondola pack now has them animated, and if I was understanding the description of that pack correctly, you can get in them and ride them. So we're going to have to see if we can find one somewhere to hop in and ride around. I don't know how that works, but I'd like to find out. That'd be pretty cool. Be a fun little thing to do. All right, let's start slowing our way down, trimming our way up. I'm going to zoom in on a little nav map over here so I can watch this approach.
460, Papa Taxi to parking the Alpha. We're made out of this frequency. We'll see ya.
Oh boy.
You're parking on Alpha, this frequency. Thanks very much.
I'm starting to get the nervous jitters about changing this frequency because I got all my hands
November
busy right now.
200 Papa
There we go.
Foxtrot, contact Seattle Tower, 119.9.
Repeat the frequency one more time for Seattle Tower, 0 Papa Foxtrot.
So 119.9.
119.9, 0 Papa Foxtrot. Okay, let's get this done. 119.9.
Billings approach, Cherokee 15397, a VFR request.
Go ahead.
Billings approach, Cherokee 15397, we are 17 miles
That looks like a landfill over there, doesn't it?
8,000. And like to
Come on, man,
request
speed it
a
up.
practice
We got a crowded channel here.
ILS approach to runway 28, starting initial would be Grizz, and we have Alpha.
Air 15397, Billings approach squawk 5137.
5137, Cherokee 397.
Seattle Tower, Lancaster 200 Papa Foxtrot, 10 miles east at 3,000 with Mike inbound for full stop.
November 200 Papa Foxtrot, Seattle Tower left base, runway 16 left. Runway 16 left, clear to land, wind 2108.
Could I request a, no, never mind, that's fine. Left base entry is perfect for 0 Papa Foxtrot. Thank you. Clear to land, 16 left. That's what I wanted. Perfect.
Air 15397, radar contact.
Was not going to be able to do it downwind.
Southeast of Billings Vortex. Put our
All right, so this is almost at sea level, so we're going to keep slowing down.
Put our grid,
trimming
ILS
up.
runway 28 right practice approach is authorized.
Maintain VFR, direct to Grizz, and approach is approved. Cherokee 397.
So this is probably, I'm trying to look here at the landscape. That's probably the airport right there.
And
Let's see once we get a
397,
little
how does
closer.
the approach terminate?
All right, this
I'm
descent
sorry,
rate's
could you
probably
repeat
pretty
for
good.
397?
Coming up on 2,000 feet. I don't
397,
want to
how
get
will
much
the
lower than
approach terminate?
2,000 over the city.
It'll
Probably
terminate
some
at full
noise
stop for
ordinance issues.
397.
We'll just trim up to slow her down. Trim up some more. All right, so we're going to come across this waterway here. I'm just eyeballing a little nav map to the left. Airspeed's looking good. We'll give it a little bit more juice. Try to stop our descent at 2,000. We don't want to get below 120 miles per hour without any flaps down. And we got about 7 miles until we make that turn on to final. So let's just check out the scenery as we're coming in. Man, had I known we'd be coming in over this, which I guess I kind of did know, I would have installed more Freaky D stuff, because we might even see some bridges and stuff out here. All right, we'll go ahead and get the gears down. Still don't really see the airport. That's got to be it over there, probably. Looks like it. And we're coming up on 5 miles out. Come on, baby. I'm trying to trim this sucker to get that nose back up. We'll give it some power. More power. More power to you. Yeah, that's got to be it right there. One notch of flaps. Now we can bring the power down. And this is going to be 1 left. Or 10 left. There's 16 left. What is it? 16 left. Okay. We got it. We'll figure it out. Oh, look at this. Another great looking city. And this one is a big performance hit for some reason. Probably because of all these airports around here. Man, maybe that's not the airport. Because we got 5 miles to go till our base, or our turn to final still. We can take in some of the scenery. Perfectly fine. I'm going to swing out this way just a little bit to give us a little bit more room to turn this thing around. Yeah, that's got to be it right over here. That's got to be it. And then we'll pull up Navigraph and make sure we're landing in the right spot. Help me out with this. Is Amazon a Seattle-based company? And you know what made me think about that? Look how detailed all that stuff is. I know they got a lot of big tech companies out here. Man, what a panorama that is, huh? There's downtown Seattle over there, and there's Boeing Field directly in front of us. Got some nice waterfront property. Can you imagine what real estate costs out here? I had a buddy that moved from Jacksonville out here. He got a job with Microsoft, and he said it was outrageously expensive. And I thought it was bad in Florida, but out here on the West Coast, big time. All right, I'm going to try to hold our altitude just by manipulating the power there. So we'll see if we can just cut it enough to hold. Because we actually need to come down a little bit here. We got about 1.5 more miles till we turn onto final. Throwing another notch of flaps. All right, that's looking good. Wow. I'd love to come back out here again. I've really only been to Seattle. When I was really, really, really young, I went to San Francisco. Barely have any memories of that either. It was around the time Mount St. Helens erupted. That's the only thing I've ever done. Seattle and San Francisco out on the West Coast, which is too bad because it's such a gorgeous area. Look at all these big, big buildings. That must be part of the Boeing complex because look where we are over their field here. I wonder if the tower's going to say, hey, stay out of Boeing's way. Real nice area. So when we're done, we'll take a look at little nav map real quick. I'll show you that dam and some of the other dams. I'll show you that really, really big one too. Old Mossy Rock. And then we'll wrap it up. Train yard. Hello. Looks wonderful. As always, we do have some filled-in bridges underneath. Doggone it. That one's open underneath. Right down there where it's bending around. Our little corner window. Not the best base entry, but I got a lot going on in my head and in my hands. Another notch of flaps. Keep the nose down. Watch that airspeed. You can see how quick that came down when we dropped those flaps. And there's the runway there. Let's not land on a taxiway, if we can avoid it. Final notch of flaps. I think it's the final notch. Yep. We'll see if we can get her down without a bounce and maintain control of it. Okay, this is pretty easy to spot. So we got left, center, and right over there. And we're a little low on the PAPI, so we'll fly up into our glide slope. Give it some more power because we're going really slow right now. Well, she can keep flying at 100 miles per hour, can't she? Because that's where we're at right now. Turn her down some. Now we're on the glide slope, according to the PAPIs. Keep trimming it down, keep trimming it down. Just got to get that airspeed up. It's not windy, by the way. That's me oscillating. Not a stable approach. We're not going around there now. We're committed. And then once we get down, we'll just pull her over to the left, park her somewhere, and that'll be a wrap. Look at a little nav map first before we shut her down. Thanks for coming along as always. Look at that mountain off in the distance. So that's got to be Rainier again. Airspeed's looking good. I just got to keep her nose down here. We don't want to get much slower than this. Yep, the only thing that would kill me about this, and it might even be offset by the beautiful natural landscape, would be the weather. I need my sunshine. I need my vitamin D. Like I think every other human on Earth, the doctor keeps telling me I have vitamin D deficiencies, and I'm taking a supplement too. I'll just blame it on my old age and too much simming. If only they could make computer screen light produce vitamin D, then we'd be in business. Alright, airspeed's looking good. Now we're stabilized. It's still saying we're high, though. It doesn't feel like it, does it? I guess it kind of does. This is a big plane. If we're in a 172, we definitely feel high. Alright, and roll her out. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Get some brakes going on there. This is where you could lose control of this thing, so full back on the yoke. And we'll take this next taxiway on the left up here, which it looks like is going to be Kilo.
Tower 15, Tree 97, contact Billings, Tower 127.2.
Flaps up.
Over to tower 127.2, 397.
Alright, here we go. This behemoth.
0 Pop Foxtrot, Bravo to parking, remain as frequency, we'll see ya.
Bravo to parking, remain on frequency. Thank you very much, 0 Papa Foxtrot. Cool, that was easy. Alright, let's go right over there. Now this is, okay, so despite the add-on pack being in there, You can see they've got a lot of ground equipment over there, which I'm kind of glad to see, because I was wondering if airports that would have a lot of ground stuff, because when you're landing, it doesn't really matter. I can park wherever I want and avoid that stuff. It's all stacked up over there. You see that? We'll see it again here in just a second. We're going to turn over there. I've got full left rudder and brake. This thing is just a dinosaur. Love it. Let's open our window. You can open this one too, but it's like right in your face. Check it out. Whoa, hello. Let's open that one. Oh, what an awesome flight, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for coming along. I am humbled by all of you guys that are members of our channel. Keep hanging out with me. You guys know I don't do this for the money, and it's a good thing, because I don't... Just in case you're wondering, I like to give occasional updates on this, because I know people are curious. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and I think YouTube has... Again, I'm not a huge channel, but I think I've made a total of around $400 for YouTube. So if your future career is a sim channel, you might want to have a little side hustle going. Okay, let's shut it down. All I'm going to do is cut the mix. And we'll disconnect from pilot edge, so we don't have to have that going on. Bring this over here, and let me just open that up, shut it down. Wherever it is, disconnect.
Pilot edge disconnected.
Okay, gosh, what an awesome flight. All right, so let's take the centering off and get back here and look at some of these damn dams. So here's where Swan Island was. This is originally where the airport was, and it was originally an island, so they built this up at some point when they made it a big shipyard for World War II, and it looks like they still have some military... Oh, we got two different images there. Well, they got a cruise ship, it looks like, which is nice. That might be in like dry dock or something. It kind of looks like it, because that does not look like a cruise terminal. They wouldn't be parking for that. So they're probably still using it as a shipyard. And then they got the big port of Seattle, or Portland, sorry, Port of Portland. That looks like a private marina. Wonder where their big port is here. One of you guys from Seattle, let me know, or Portland. Sorry, we're in Portland. Let me know where that is. But that's where it was. That was the original airport right down there, Swan Island, until they moved it up here. And then the campus for the University of Portland, right here. Probably looks gorgeous in the sim. Look at that. So if you want to fly over there and check that out, which we will do when we do a low and slow of Portland. Here's the Lewis Dam. This is the one we didn't see. So as we were coming up this way before we made that turn to the north, it was the big Lake Merwin. Sorry, that's the Merwin Dam, not Lewis. I need to change that. Look how sweet this thing looks. Unfortunately, it just did not look good in the sim. Look at that. Only about 300 feet high, though. Looks a lot bigger than that, doesn't it? But they got the spillway going. Look at that. You can see the water coming out. I wonder if that'd be modeled. That'd be so cool. A little splash and fizz down there. And then here's the ones we did see, and you can see this satellite map's all jacked up. But this is the Yale Dam here. Nice spillway going over. This one's an earthen dam, obviously. And then there's that saddle dam right there, and you can see the big recreational area they had over there. And then the big earthen dam here is the Swift Dam. This is actually called the Swift number 1, because this down here is the Swift number 2. And both of these are hydro. Look, they got a powerhouse down here too. So they get a little bit of power, actually a lot of power from that one up there. I think they get over 200 megawatts out of that one each year. And then this one down here is significantly less, but why not double up on it? Got to get that power from somewhere if you're getting 1/3 of the country's power out of these things for hydropower. Okay, so here is Old Mount St. Helens. There's a little lava dome, which we could see. I honestly think the colors looked even better in the sim than they did here. I don't know what's more true to life. I guess the actual picture would be more true to life, but... Well, there's some reds. You could see some reds in the sim there. See that along the side there? Yeah. One of you guys fly your helicopter up here. Throw that add-on in there. Let me know what it looks like. If it's awesome, which it probably is, we're going to check that out. And then here's Spirit Lake. This is the one that everything got killed in it. What if that was debris still left over from that eruption? What is that? It looks like logs, doesn't it? Is it possible that 25 years later... I mean, it is possible. There could still be debris floating in that? I mean, surely that's not from local logging. Golly. All right, one of you guys that lives around here, also let me know that. Is that debris still remaining from that eruption? It could very well be. That would be really cool. And then what do we got up here? Mount Rainier, of course. Which is kind of washed out here in the sim, isn't it? It's a little bit too bright, but looked great in the sim once that sim-induced snow cap was removed as we were flying by there. And then as we were coming in this way, just to show you how close we were to Boeing Field, that's it right there. And then we came on in for our final runway 16 left. So awesome, guys. As usual, I learned all kinds of things. Really great flight. This flight plan will be included. The few bookmarks I have will be included. And you can look forward to probably the Jurassic Park flight next if we don't do Springfield, Missouri. But whatever it's going to be, as usual, I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see you all again in the skies. Later.